Both Donald Trump voters and Kamala Harris voters were polled on Luigi Mangione, were polled on the actions he took last week, and then asked about the current state of the healthcare system and insurance within America, and the answers probably won't surprise you. Many people are unhappy, but what may shock you is how bipartisan the answers are. People on both sides are equally unhappy, roughly, with how the healthcare system has treated them thus far, and that exposes a deep flaw in our system. And here's a tough question. What do Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Luigi Mangione all have in common? Well, they've all exposed the same deep dysfunction that our healthcare system has and the way that our politics are failing to address it. Now, they've exposed this issue in slightly different ways. Elon Musk decides to participate in the system, while Luigi Mangione decided to, we all know what he decided to do. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, because I want to take a nuanced position on all of this. And the thing is, it seems like most Americans also have a pretty nuanced position. So let's just start off with this. We learned today that Luigi Mangione has retained a high-powered New York attorney, none other than Karen Friedman Agnifilo from the MeidasTouch Network, to represent him in New York. KFA is a vet of the Manhattan's DA office with deep experience in New York's criminal justice system. I've been on shows with her before. She is brilliant, and I don't think the question will be whether or not Luigi did it. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he committed this crime, but the question will be how much of a reduced sentence can they get? And this brings us on to some of the polling that we've received. In first poll since the killing, young Americans favor Luigi Mangione over United Healthcare and slain CEO Brian Thompson. Now, what these polls show is that American citizens can see a lot of nuance, which is really good. The vast majority of American citizens say we don't condone murder. We don't think people should be the judge, jury, and executioner. That is not how America works. But Americans also side more with Luigi over Brian Thompson, and it gets interesting when you break it down by who they voted for. So again, most Americans say we don't condone murder. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying, how come Brian Thompson gets to commit relentless murder in different ways by denying people insurance or healthcare? And then when Luigi does it, it's a completely different thing. So we do not want people to murder. Just think about this for 1 second, because when I said in my last video about this, that we shouldn't go out and murder a ton of random people on the street, people in my comments got pissed at me for saying that, but this is how you erode the fabric of our society. You can't allow individuals to act as a judge, jury, and executioner based on their personal grievances or how much support they get online. For example, consider a hypothetical scenario where if society permitted individuals to commit murder based on their personal belief that they were stopping a wrong, or based on enough people cheering them on, anti-abortion, pro-life activists would justify killing doctors that perform abortions because they would say they were saving babies. We do not want pro-life activists going out killing random doctors, so we should not set the precedent that just because somebody believes something is right, or just because enough people cheer that on, then that is something that society should accept. And if you're mad at me for saying that, then get mad at the majority of Americans, because when the majority of Americans were asked, do you think this killing was justifiable? Only 12% had a positive opinion. 6% were strongly positive. 6% were not strongly positive. Meanwhile, 73 people said no. They had a negative opinion. The killing was not justified. Again, 12% of Americans thought the killing was justified. But with that being said, when people are asked, especially respondents under 45, read this. Respondents under 45 were asked if they have a positive or negative view of Luigi Mangione or Brian Thompson. Now, 31% of people under 45 had a positive view of Luigi. Meanwhile, only 16 had a positive view of Brian Thompson. People dislike Brian Thompson way more, and that is simply due to the fact that people can at least empathize with the idea of trying to fix our healthcare system. Now, I want to read something that Elon Musk posted about our healthcare system in 1 second, but first, what I found interesting is that when you break down people's opinion of Luigi based on who they voted for, Trump or Kamala, you see there's not that much of a difference between how people view him. And this shows that People are unhappy with our healthcare. This is uniform across the aisle. We even saw this sentiment reflected in Ben Shapiro's comment section. If you saw the video about that I made, Ben Shapiro's own fans called him out relentlessly for being out of touch, for not understanding the healthcare system, because he doesn't understand. He was completely dismissing people's anger over this healthcare system, and many people in that comment section were saying the same thing. It's a very normal opinion. We don't think that random murder is justified, but how come Brian Thompson gets to randomly murder people and nobody calls it out? Again, we cannot condone random street murder. That is not an okay position to take. At the same time, Brian Thompson, I don't feel too bad. I personally don't feel too bad. I have had family members that have had run-ins with the healthcare system, run-in with insurance, and it never goes our way. It always goes in the way of the provider. So it's like, I don't feel bad, but at the same time, I would never want a reality where conservatives shoot some pro-life doctor and all of them are cheering it on, and then that sets some precedent that, hey, maybe street violence is okay when it isn't. So let's break this down. What's your opinion of Luigi Mangione? A total of 19% of people have a strong positive opinion. Meanwhile, a total of 61% have a negative opinion. And here's the interesting part. Trump voters have an 18% favorable opinion of Luigi. 18%. It's not crazy high, but that is higher than you'd think. 1 in 5 Trump voters have a favorable opinion or a positive opinion. Meanwhile, 21% of Harris voters have a favorable opinion of Luigi Mangione. That is not that much of a difference. That is a 3-point difference, and that shows that most Americans don't think Luigi is some hero who is saving the system. They understand he is somebody who was screwed over by the system and likely had some sort of mental break. And if you don't think he had a mental break, if you think he was totally of sound mind, I mean, just why did he disappear off the map for 4 or 5 months? He didn't contact any of his family members. This was clearly somebody going through something. So we should not idolize that, but we should say that we understand where he was coming from. So again, Trump voters have an 18% favorable view of Luigi. Harris voters have a 21% favorable view of Luigi, which shows that about the same amount of people across the aisle have a favorable view and understand where he was coming from. And you know what I found even extra interesting? One of these said that people who have been denied healthcare by their health insurance provider were over 3 times more likely to view Mangione favorably than those who have not. Which makes total sense. People who have had a first-hand experience getting denied or getting screwed over by our system tend to have a much more favorable view. And I'm not saying that these people are going to be okay with murder or pro-murder. I'm just saying that these people tend to have more empathy and understand where Luigi was coming from. Or on the flip side of that, they don't really care about Brian Thompson. I mean, I feel bad for his kids, but I don't think that him dying was some sort of huge tragic. I mean, yeah, of course, it's sad whenever somebody dies, but what about the many, many people that he has directly screwed over? So let's end this off by kind of just showing what the problem with our system is. It's people like Vivek Ramaswamy, people like Elon Musk, who are currently entrenching their own power and trying to support Trump while he strips healthcare away from people. So Vivek recently tweeted, "Insurance exists to cover events that are random, infrequent, catastrophic, and outside the control of the individual." This is already largely wrong. That's Econ 101, but here's the rub. Only 30% of medical events meet these criteria, yet over 70% of healthcare costs are borne by insurance. A hard question about rising U.S. healthcare costs is about whether we're using the wrong instrument to pay for much of it. Elon Musk quote tweets that and says, "The current system is incredibly inefficient, providing mediocre medical care at a high price." So if we take a step back, before I even break down what's being said, Elon Musk is trying to use the version of populism that has gained him power and has gained Trump power, saying, hey, the system is working against you, but he's doing it in a slippery way because he's not actually advocating for expanded healthcare. In fact, he's advocating for quite the opposite. So someone in the replies called Vivek out perfectly and they nailed it. They said, "Insurance doesn't cover random events. It actually intentionally covers predictable events. And insurance companies calculate risks. That is inherently what they do. They use data to calculate these risks. It's not guesswork based on unpredictable events. They cover frequent claims, things that happen frequently, like routine doctor visits, because that's how they make money. And the idea that insurance should only cover catastrophic events, is absurd. No insurance company would ever survive on catastrophic events alone. They'd quickly go bankrupt, so either they're ignorant of how insurance works or they're deliberately misleading people to push policies that benefit corporations over individuals. So the idea is really clear here if you take a step back. They're trying to dismantle the idea that healthcare should be this collective responsibility, and they're trying to shift the burden entirely onto individuals. They act like it's about reforming the system, but really it's about protecting profits. So again, the frustration we're seeing with healthcare system isn't new, but it's kind of reaching a boiling point across both sides. Americans that voted for Trump, Americans that voted for Kamala, Americans that didn't vote may disagree on a lot of things, but it seems like they're all fed up and share this deep dissatisfaction with how our healthcare industry operates for profit rather than benefiting the people, because America is one of the richest nations on the planet. We may be the richest nation on the planet, and it's embarrassing that our healthcare system works against our own people while working for the minority. People like Vivek Ramaswamy, people like Elon Musk. I'll end it with that. Drop a like, subscribe if you appreciate what I do. I'll see you in the next video, and I love you guys. Peace out.